So, in your opinion, John, what's kind of, you're a man that's traveled all over the world. You've been to almost every single crypto conference known. What do you believe is the significance of having an in real life event presence?
Yeah. Well, that's a great question. I think that, first of all, you have to think of it as a cadence. Okay. It's a sustained effort over time where your presence is there at various events. You get to know people, you get to see people, and you continue to see people over time. And so, of course, it's wonderful that we can establish relationships and coordinate our community online, but it's really important also to have that in-person experience as well, particularly given that, frankly, many of the team members at Telos are not really well known yet, and so we have to make sure that the community knows us as real people. We get to sort of hang out and talk about some of the things we're working on. It's really wonderful to also have those social interactions, whether it's like a dinner or uh, just having lunch with somebody or a group of people. Those kinds of interactions are just really important for establishing trust and just getting to know exactly who it is that you're dealing with. I remember in the early Ethereum days, there's lots of people today who are like influencers or really well known, etc. But like nobody knew who those people were. And in the beginning, it was kind of weird because you're sort of like, wow, this person suddenly pops up on Twitter. They've got a couple hundred followers, and you're like, I've never heard of this person before. And now that same person, maybe 5, 6, 7, 8 years later, as a result of accruing a lot of reputation, meeting a lot of people, expanding their network, being visible, maybe they have tens of thousands of followers, and perhaps what they say carries some weight, and there's a degree of trust in the community and the market that this person is actually real. um, that's sort of like, I think, very important. In fact, I read a story recently, and it was, I think there was some crypto network or crypto project, forgot the name, but the CEO wasn't even real. It was like a fake AI, and it looked like a real person. uh, and so it's very important that we establish that. And I think also with respect to some of the changes we've seen in the Telos community and more broadly, we're starting to slowly get a little bit more recognition more broadly in the crypto ecosystem. A lot of that is because people know me as a real person from all the years of attending these events, and I think it's really important that they also get to know other important key members of the Telos community. And so that definitely is really important. Um, and I wouldn't think of it in a vacuum as far as like, one event or two events. It's really um, making a plan, and it should really be part of the Telos Foundation marketing budget each year to participate at select events and continue to have a presence throughout the year, particularly in places that we care about. One of the things, we were talking about, for example, the Asia Pacific region. It's really important when you, especially when you go to countries where maybe English isn't the first language. You go to Japan, for example, um, and maybe anyone who's used the internet in Japan knows that it's like different than the internet that we're using every single day in the West. Maybe where the community is organized and where people interact is totally different. Um, Another example is China. I mean, so many things happen on WeChat. And so just because you're on Twitter and you're posting in English doesn't mean you're reaching these communities. Whereas when you go there, you participate in events. Those events have translators. You get to meet people. They get to know you're real. That stuff goes a very, very long way towards building communities. Outside of the West. Um, and finally, I would say that the other big thing is just developers. And the reality is, particularly these very strong technical conferences like SCC, or in my opinion, F Belgrade, lots and lots of devs show up. Uh, where otherwise you may not have the opportunity to meet these people. It's really important to, like I said, be there, get to know them, uh, allow for the opportunity in case anyone is curious to ask questions and learn about what you're doing. Make sure there's a really supportive and creative environment that people can interact with. And so that kind of stuff is like super duper important, and it compounds over time as you consistently participate in these events. And really, ultimately, I think that whether that's in 2024 or 2025, we'll see. But Telos should be organizing its own events, frankly, even if they're just little meetups. Uh, the early Bitcoin dev meetups, for example, very, very well known in New York City, 2013. I think they might have even started in 2012, and certainly going into 2014. Tremendously important. I mean, very small at the time, small number of people. I remember people like Eric Voorhees before he became prominent, and he's done a great job building his career. He was at events like that, and you could just talk to him and learn a tremendous amount. I remember going to Bitcoin Dev Meetup in 2013. Trace Meyer was there, and he sort of like talked a lot about the Austrian economics school of thinking and how that applies to Bitcoin and why that's important. That was like tremendous information for me at the time. It changed my life as far as like my perspective on things and so on. And Yeah, I think we should definitely work towards ultimately having our own events as well, in addition to participating wherever we can, wherever it makes sense.